Singing and recording after 40, um, and creativity after 40, and performing after 40. What is that life about? That's what I'm tackling today in the podcast. And those who are watching YouTube, welcome. Those who are listening, thank you for continuing to tune in. And I've already done a long intro for for my listeners on Spotify and Apple. So this is a Let's Get Personal um, episode. And so I did a whole series of these back in January, and it was really very cathartic. And what was also really, really interesting was how many people sent DMs and texts and messages, um, just saying how they could relate and how it resonated. And then obviously just to offer kind words. And, so I know that when we share our stories, um, how impactful when we speak in I statements, when we really personalize our experiences and allow others to witness us in our more vulnerable spaces. It becomes less so much about ooh, me, and more about the listener and how they're able to then reflect on their own lives. So I do want to do these Let's Get Personal more. Um, but for today, I'm focusing on singing and creativity after 40. One, because at the time that this is being released, I officially am opening and launching a music event. I'm heading back to the stage after not having been on the stage for my own event since March 14th, 2020. So we all know what was happening around that time. That was the last time that I hit the stage, and it was interesting because in Chicago, it was buzzing. It was definitely coronavirus. What is this? Buzzing, buzzing. Don't go out. But things weren't completely shut down yet. But people, like, literally that day was like, yeah, we can't go out. And so I had sold all these tickets for this performance. It was a show, an intimate show that I was doing with my keyboardist, uh, Brandon B. David, and my drummer, Chuck Lacey. And it was to launch the beginning. I had a new song that was just coming out, and I was preparing, and oh my goodness, it was a lot. But that was the last time I was on stage really for an event that I was doing. I've done one guest performance I did in 2021 for a small local outdoor festival, but um really a show, yeah, no, not since forever. So I'm heading back on the stage, and I'm actually launching the ticket sales today, which is April 11th. So if you're watching this in lifetime, then you'll be able to go and grab those tickets. And those tickets, I'll tell more about how you can grab them. Those of you who are listening on the audio, you got all the goods in the beginning. Those of you who are on Apple and Spotify. But what I wanted to talk when I do these Let's Get Personals, I talk about the what, when, why, and how, and then the spiritual lessons. So I did a divorce after 40, Let's Get Personal. I did a dating after 40, Let's Get Personal. I did managing weight after 40. So if you're like, what? I want to hear those. Hop on over to the Finding Your Voice After 40 podcast on Apple and Spotify. And those episodes were in the 70s. This is hitting episode 81. So those were in the 70s. But what I'm going to do is to share kind of, for me, singing, being creative after 40, what that has looked like, and the what, when, why, how, but bigger, the spiritual lessons. And I'm sharing this one so that you get a better idea of who I am as an artist and why I entered into it after 40, literally, and why I've shifted a bit away from it now after 50. But so hopefully, the big part is going to be the spiritual lessons, because I'm hoping that you hearing this will further allow you to reflect on what for you, what gifts, what hobbies, interests, creative energy inside of you. What are you doing with it? How do you treat it? What is it about for you? Because I do think in this day and age that we're moving in, our ability to focus more on our creativity is going to be really key. And I don't mean creativity just the Beyonce and mainstream and fame. Not No, not at all. We're all creators. We were created, and we create every day, all day. But I wonder how much we value it and appreciate it and use it in ways that could allow us to be more abundant and expansive. So I'm going to try to do all of this, I try to keep my solo episodes to 30 minutes of me chatting here. So the what, or less than, or less than. The what? Singing. So I am a singer and a songwriter. Um, and when I say songwriter, I'm mostly an author writer, meaning I write the lyrics. I do know how to play the piano as well. I can read basic, music on the piano. I do definitely use the piano to write. I call the piano my pen. So I would say that, a certain level of composition as well, but I don't, I don't consider myself a real composer, but I'm definitely a songwriter. And, yeah, I sing mostly a mix between soul and jazz music. That's what I love the most. I love progressive jazz music. I have way too many artists, way too many artists. If you listen to our Spotify playlist, the Finding Your Voice After 40 podcast playlist, you'll get a good sample of all the guests and what they like. And a lot of that is what I like. But I really love, I really love progressive music that you have to feel a bit more jazz with a twist, soul with a twist. That's my thing. And while I don't feel that my music is as progressive in the way that I actually like to listen to music, I do consider myself in that kind of vein. And it's funny because I heard John Mayer one time say this, and I just love that he said this. You can, as an artist, you can really love another like artist or genre of music, but not necessarily do that style, right? Or even be capable of doing. And that's what he was kind of saying, like, oh, I love these artists. I can't play that like that though. And I think that's how I get sometimes. It's not that, oh, I can't. I'm not putting myself down at all. It's just not what I can do. Like it's not my wheelhouse. But I would say you're more soulful, um, feeling oriented, acousticy, lyrical. That's more of what I am. So that's what I do. And I'm not currently. I used to do music full time, completely. That was my full time career, entrepreneurial career. And now it is not. It is no longer my full time, but in my whole transparency, I'm attempting to figure out where music, at least as the public being able to consume it, where will it exist. And I'm not sure yet. This live event that I am doing, I have a new book series. And so it's going to be more to support my performance, is going to be in collaboration and support of celebrating the release of that book. But yeah, I think at this stage, if I'm gonna do music for the public, for public consumption, it needs to be very in alignment with where I truly am right now, which is doing more holistic wellness and healing work with people, and education, and astrology and so forth, and retreats. So I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out. So when? Well, I started singing Um, I think my very first solo where the public heard me, because I've been singing since I can remember. I don't remember when I first started singing. I mean, I don't know, like maybe 4 or 5. But as far as the public hearing me and me having to memorize a song and get on a stage and then be like, "What?" And do that, I was in 3rd grade. I was in 3rd grade, and I had to sing "Feed the Birds," a Mary Poppins song. I'll never forget it. And I think when I got on that stage, because it was, elementary school and we had a big auditorium, at least it felt like a big auditorium then. And I got on the stage and I don't remember ever elevating my head to like actually look at the audience, but maybe I did. I don't know. I felt like I sang the song just like this with my head down the whole time, but that was my debut. And I've really been singing, my whole life. To myself, I sing every day. I'm all about it. But as far as the public, that's when it started. And once my principal and teachers saw that I really liked to sing, I had a music teacher who could, I guess she would hear me humming or something during because this is when we had music classes. And I don't know, she must have just picked up on I could carry a tune or something. And she asked me, I remember she asked me to come to the piano and see if I could like sing some of this song. And so I did. I wasn't thinking anything really of it. And the next thing I knew, she said, "Okay, you're going to sing that at the next, assembly." That was that. But I that was the beginning, and then from elementary school really all the way through high school. Elementary school, I started. They didn't have an arts program in Denver where I grew up, for elementary school at that time. That's all kind of shifted, but at that time, I was in like 5th, 6th grade, and I was at that point. They would have what's called citywide choir for I think 6th graders, 5th, 6th graders, and I got into that. And and then I was also in band. I played the flute. And I only played the flute. I started playing the flute in 3rd grade as well. And I only started, or maybe it was 4th grade. I think it was 4th grade. I only started playing the flute because my sister played the flute. I mean, I didn't, oh, she played the flute. I was supposed to play the flute. That's how deep that got. Um, but then they had a gifted and talented program, not just for sciences and math, but for arts. That we would have to get bused out of our school 2 days a week and spend the mornings learning whatever our art, whatever our thing was, our first instrument was. And mine was singing and theater. And so I don't even know how I got with the theater. It was mostly music. And so I did that. And then in middle school, I just continued on with the citywide choirs and continued on with band. I was always between first, second, and third seat. Luana Alapoa and Jessica Wilcox were always the hard ones to beat to get in the first and second chairs. But I was typically third. I think I stayed in first chair 1 week and then I got challenged and got bumped out. But I was usually between second and third chair. And so, I enjoyed flute and then got to high school. I did stop band at that point. I was playing piano too, private lessons in middle school, and then got to high school and told myself I wasn't doing music. I don't even know what was going through my head, but whatever. My mom looked at me like I was retarded. And I was just playing. She looked at me really like, "What, child? What?" And I auditioned in my freshman year for our all school musical Grease, just because my mother told me I had to. I really wasn't interested in doing it at the time, but I did it and I got in as a part of the chorus, or basically the extras, the people that made up the sounds and to make the musical full in Grease, the background people. But that's when my drama teacher really kind of again heard me, and so it just really took off after my freshman year of high school, and I got involved heavily in music in school, and I was in all the musicals. My breakout, I guess, role was as Dorothy in The Wiz, and it was a pretty big deal then because this is in Denver, Colorado, and this would have been in the late 1980s, and there was only one other Denver public school that had done a Black musical. And so our school was like the second to do a Black musical. to do the Wiz. And so it got really big coverage and sold out every night. And the news was there. It was a big, big deal. So to play Dorothy for that was really what started the the real deal. And thereafter, I just continued. I was Maria in West Side Story. I was Golda in Fiddler on the Roof. And, I was in a citywide jazz ensemble opening for jazz artists like Art Blakey in high school and recording. And it was really a big part of my life. Um, and then when I went to college, when I went to Howard again, my brain was like, you got to get serious, no more music. I always had this thing thinking I got to get serious because music was always play. It was always just play for me. So it was like, you got to get serious. So when I got to Howard, I was going to get serious. I wasn't even going to really tell anybody that I sang. But my roommate got wind that I sang, and she would hear me singing because, like I said, I sing like every day. And it got kind of, I don't know, buzzed around the dorm or something. I don't know. But one of my dorm mates, there was a Howard Gospel Choir was doing auditions earlier in the fall term. And she was like, I heard you sing. Will you audition with me? I don't want to be by myself. And I was like, gospel choir, because I had never been in a just all gospel choir. I had sang gospel music. I had sang pretty much any style of music, but I had never been in an actual just gospel choir. So I said, well, I'll just try out because she's trying out, help her out. But then when I tried out and saw the people and heard the music, I was like, I hope I get in. And I got in. And so that's really in college what my focus musically was being involved in Howard's Gospel Choir. Um, and then again, graduate and all right, for real now. You got your degree in physical therapy. Get serious, girl. But I still would try to do a little bit of music. I would sing background for different artists just here and there. There was a group called Hugh, which is made of Maritri Garrett, and Shauna Tucker, who both have been well, Shauna has not been on the podcast, but Maritri has. And some of you may know Shauna Tucker. She's an amazing cellist and vocalist, musician, based in North Carolina. And she's also been featured on Foreign Exchange. And she's just really an amazing person. And Marie Tree, oh my God, she's done so many amazing things. And so I got the honor of singing background for them here and there in my early 20s. But eventually they moved to New York City. I was living in DC and I stopped. I just stopped altogether. And so the why this leads me to the why. Um, I did resume back again in my mid 30s. And I talked about this, I think, earlier when I, in a myriad of podcasts, talked about, I think the very first episode of the podcast, the audio podcast in season one, I talked about finding your voice. And for me, I had lost my voice really. When I stopped music, I lost me. I really did. And for me, music was just always this very natural part of who I am. It wasn't something that I thought was special. And this is why I say this to young people all the time. I say this to the college students I work with, and I say this to coaching clients. Those things that we normalize for us are often where our gifts are sitting. And we normalize it to the degree that we don't think it's special enough or whatever enough that we could nurture it in a way that it could add more to our lives or add more to others' lives. And that's exactly how I felt about music. I just didn't realize how being able to write songs in your head, being able to get on a stage and perform, being able to record, being able to do these things was not just, doo-doo. It, was a part of a gifting. And it wasn't until I had a pretty major breakdown in my 30s, late 30s. Now I know astrologically what was going on. There's a cycle, y'all, 36 to 37, 38. 37-year-olds, if you're like, wow, it's kind of almost worse than a Saturn return if you didn't do anything during the Saturn return, which I didn't, to get my life in order according to me. But anyway, I had that breakdown. And then it was music that was such a critical part of my healing. And I thought I was going to just use music again as a hobby. but the universe opened so many doors for me, and I made the decision to walk through those doors. Because the universe is always opening doors and windows and crosswalks, everything for us. But we as humans have to choose it. And I wasn't choosing it before, but this time I was so broken apart. I was so open that I saw it. And I think this is why it's critical for us to fall apart. I'm going to get more in that in my spiritual lesson. So the why is, music is natural. It's like breathing. It's very healing for me. And it's what has allowed so much for me in terms of how it's impacted my life. And so that's going to lead me to the how. And the how, you know, yes, I took vocal lessons. I've always had amazing instructors and mentors in music and producers, and my father was a musician, so it was just really embedded in me from birth. I mean, I was reading liner notes at the that's how I learned how to start really reading, honestly, because my sister is 8 years older than me, so I don't remember her sitting me down teaching me how to read, but I know that she there during summer months or whatever, she was definitely reading to me and showing me different things, and I don't know, I just learned how to read. But I remember reading liner notes at the age of 4. And the reason why I know I had to be 4 is because I remember distinctly sitting down and reading Minnie Riperton's When She Was Still Alive album liner notes, and reading Stevie Wonder's liner notes. And I know that I'm so certain because Minnie Riperton passed when I was like 5 or 6. No, I was 5. I was 5. I think I was turning 6 later, and so because she died during the summer, and I remember this so strongly because for whatever reason, I was just very drawn to her when I was a child, and when my dad had all her music, and when she'd be on Soul Train and all the things. I don't know, something about her just at that time, obviously, was quite spiritual. I was very drawn to her, and so I would read, like, what were these lyrics to these songs that I was hearing? And I remember reading that. So that's a very, obviously I know that that's not a common thing that 3 and 4-year-olds do, but that was, how it just really how I was able to really embody music is because of the exposure. And I always tell people who come to me who have children that they recognize enjoy music or have a gifting there, and they say, well, should I get a private person and this that. And I always tell them, really at a young age they're sponges, so if just get them in community with music, in choirs, listening, get them into the space of appreciation and using their ear, because you're going to have plenty of time to get into the more formal structure of music, but you have to have the passion, and you have to have the engagement and the community with it, and the relationship with it. That's how I believe artists really bloom, is because they don't just know the craft, they have a relationship with it, and I think as young people, that's what we have to, and I think that's what's missing right now in music, is that we don't have as much community around it. It's in a lot of silos now. It used to be a bigger, just kind of inclusive community. It's more exclusive and divided off, in my opinion. And I don't know if we have relationships with it. We listen to it. We try to find the lines, the parts, sing the harmonies. I would in high school when I was 14, 15, I was listening to Take 6, learning each line of the vocals, not just the obvious melody line, but the other harmonical lines, so I could really push my ear. And I didn't know I was really doing that. I just naturally did that. And it wasn't until, yes, my vocal teacher did encourage me to listen more and keep training my ear that way. So, um, music just really, did so much for me. And so the spiritual lessons, there's so many spiritual lessons for me. Um, said singing and creativity after 40 because my public music career really took off once I hit 40. My 40th birthday, as I was approaching my 40th birthday, I was doing a lot of music locally in Chicago. Like I had done one EP. Actually, I had done two EPs at that point. But I realized I really wanted to take my career beyond just local. I wanted to be in Europe. I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be in LA. I wanted to be bigger places. And I sat with myself and decided to take a 40-day just space. I don't that's the best way I can call it. Um, where I wasn't performing, I wasn't writing, I was getting still, I was praying, I was meditating, and I was asking God to bring to me the people that I needed in my life to make this music go. My vocal coach, Lindia Johnson, who I've had on this podcast this season, she used to tell me, I would complain that I don't have enough time to practice and all this. And she said, you need to pray for the space to do so, for the time. Pray for that. And I've always held that in my head. And when I do my prayers, I do that. I always pray for, like, reveal things to me and allow me to see and to create this space. And so I asked to create bring the people that I need and allow me to see them and get this going. And, that's a whole nother podcast. It really took off, but it was after 40. It was after 40 that I met Kendall Duffy, and so many other producers that helped me get my music abroad, helped me get my music to a really top professional level, where I felt comfortable to have music on Spotify and all the things. And so my spiritual lessons, as I wrap up, the biggest, and I wrote these words down, the things that I gained, the qualities, the traits that I gained, and I tie them to my spiritual self: confidence, freedom, innovation, courage, and power. And it's been from these qualities that I now have been able to launch and do this now post music things I'm doing, from being now an assistant professor at a university, from doing a TED Talk, my very first TED Talk last week at the time of this recording, writing books and publishing them, self-publishing them. I mean, these are things doing astrology readings and teaching others about astrology. I would have never even dibble dabbled in those spaces like that had it not been for the music. Music, my relationship with music, my relationship with myself as a result of music gave me the courage to do so many things in my life, even in my personal life, even knowing when it was time to end my marriage, knowing when it's time for me to let loose with my kids and go in. All of these things, it's because music helped me learn me. So that's the spiritual lesson. So I leave with you, understand that it's typically after 40 that we have enough data, we have enough life experience to really help us find more joy and abundance in our lives, and to do it, to have the courage to do it. And so those who are less than 40, if you're feeling like but you just haven't quite had the courage or haven't quite had the something motivation, be patient with yourself, have grace for yourself, be compassionate with yourself, and take good care of yourself, so that as you are aging, you truly are getting wiser, so that you can use these experiences to catapult you into what it is you really want. And I know for a fact music did that for me, for a fact. So, those of you who are in Chicago and would like to see me perform, first of all, if you're here on YouTube, that means you're here on YouTube and you can go back and watch all my videos and listen to all the things. But also, if you're in Chicago, I invite you to come to a music live event I'm doing called the She Experience. And it is a live music, poetry, and affirmations interactive event celebrating the release of my book, The She Guide. I will be performing along with my guitarist, Gary Baker, and my percussionist, Chuck Lacey. And I will also be joined by my girl, who I hope to get here on the podcast as well, Cynthia Withers Turnquest, who is a poet based in Chicago. And she is launching her poetry and spoken word gifts. And so she will be doing poetry as well during the thing. And we will be doing a surprise kind of affirmation activity. And my books will be available and are available. When you purchase the tickets, you can also purchase a book in advance. You'll save money if you do that. But if you don't do that, then even at the event, we have opportunity for you to order the book. So if you go to sheexperience.eventbrite.com, that's where you can grab your tickets. She Experience, and I'll put that in the details here in the YouTube. But sheexperience.eventbrite.com. Grab your tickets. There's going to be light bites. It's May 11th. It's from 12 to 2. So it's kind of a matinee type of thing. So you can still get your groove on Saturday. It's Mother's Day weekend. Bring your mom, bring your sister, bring your cousin, bring them all, bring them all. So again, the details will be in the description down here. And I hope that you will join me on May 11th. And if you're not able, at a minimum, go through these videos, subscribe, do the thing. And also go to sheguidebook.com to grab your book. It's just to help you in these spiritual lessons and transformation. So thank you all. This has been awesome. And I'll be back soon. Take care.